I want to talk for a minute about something that is good and true and honest and out of love, and something that is a little bit corrupted but can still come from a well-meaning point of view. So, what I mean by that is an empath who is very empathic with empathy, uses empathy as a way of being. Codependent, which is somebody who is dependent on another's attention, recognition, need. And that they're definitely different, but they can sometimes get crossed. And the trigger for this is one of my previous talks was about narcissism and narcissists. And that when somebody is narcissistic, generally the yin to that yang is somebody who's very empathic or connecting. Since the narcissist is more taking, that the opposite energy would be more giving. And in an empathy, which, by the way, is one of the 4 acts of love in the acronym FACE, when I do Face Your Fears, when I say that, forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, empathy is a true act of love, because we are being in that other person's shoes. We are feeling what they're feeling. We empathically feel their pain and can connect with them on that to help them to have relief or to even heal. So it is a tremendous part of being human that is complete loving. So normally people that tend to be like that will attract to or be with somebody who is more taking and, all-consuming, which is what narcissism is. And so recently I've seen a big thing on the narcissist and the empath. And absolutely, the part where the empath or the empathy gets a little twisted is when it becomes codependent. And using that for the same subject of the narcissist and the empath, well, an empath would absolutely be attracted and connect and want to help and to heal and to be of service to somebody who can be narcissistic. However, they would not stay in that. Once that energy is revealed, and by the way, it's not revealed 30 years later. Once it's revealed, and it's usually pretty quickly, a lot of times before the wedding occurs, but the person denies it, well, now the empath, to stay, has to be codependent. And going back to one of my past little talks, the truth hurts, you know what I mean? And yet the truth will also set you free. And the reason why is because even though I'm empathic, if I'm with somebody who's narcissistic and I'm denying that, and I'm excusing that and helping them to see, enabling that, and hurting myself, well, now that's where codependency comes in. And it's not about putting another blame or category on myself. It's just, okay, I'm being codependent. I can own that and I can shift that. So let's go back to the difference. The empath or the codependent. The empath feels all the information and energy of somebody, of anybody else. Well, the codependent does too. And that's why codependency starts with empathy. The difference is the empath can just let it be. Whether they give healing or validation, friendship, encouragement, love, connection, or they have a sense of boundary, a sense of space between, because that person's not safe or healthy or connecting to the energy, so they have to step back and do it from afar, or leave the scenario and just be empathically prayerful for the person, whatever the case may be. That's the empath. Where the codependent starts empathic and empathy connected, empathically connected. However, then the codependent will enable, convince themselves, explain, defend, and create a point where they are being victimized by the narcissist, or by the addict, if you will. And that's the original dance is the addict and the codependent. And so, and by the way, an addiction is very narcissistic because it's all consuming for self. The codependent is kind of a reverse narcissism because the codependent is needing to be needed. So he or she is, or they, are outside of themselves, where the narcissist is always inside of themselves. The codependent is outside, however, to gain sense of self. Whereas an empath is outside of self, already knowing sense of self. The codependent is outside of self to get people, places, and things aligned because they need to have their own definition of themselves made by that. They're dependent on that. I always say when codependency, which by the way, I'm recovering, healing, shifting, changing, evolving from codependency myself. But the antidote to the actual explanation of codependency is I need to be needed. I need you to need me. You know, Cheap Trick had a beautiful song. I want you to want me. You know, I need you to need me. I mean, there it is, right there. I need you to need me. And that's codependency. Because the reality is we all need to be needed. You know, we all need to be loved. We all need that. There's a need there. But when I need you to do it, and I need you to do it consistently, and you have to do it, and if you don't do it, I'm not okay, well, that's where the codependency takes over. And again, the person attracted to that is the person that's avoidant, or an addict, or consuming, or not expressing of connection with the other person, because that person never gets it. A true codependent doesn't want you to actually give them credit, or you know, I mean, oh no, I don't need that. You know, I'm just doing what I need to do. But then they resent not getting it. So codependency has been thrown around a lot more, and you know, there's great definitions for it. Melody Beattie really nailed it years ago. Codependent no more, and the language of letting go, and all these different things. And Claudia Black, and the original Lois Wilson, you know, Bill Wilson's wife. The original Al-Anon founder, you know, he's in AA, she's in Al-Anon. It's been really developed and adapted for the last, I don't know, 70 years, 80 years. The reality is, it is a scenario. It is a scenario that the person takes on. Whether we call it an affliction or an ism or an addiction, doesn't matter. But it is a scenario, and it's not empathy. It's empathy's twisted cousin. And so the way we can heal from that is we own that, and the direct honesty with self. And we start letting go of control of everybody and anything. And we start feeling our feelings of loss and disconnection that we're trying to gain from somebody else who's not necessarily healthy, like an active addict or a narcissist. And we start to move away from those, and we own our own sense of codependency, and we give empathy to ourselves, which a codependent will never give empathy to self because it's always outside of self. So we start empathizing with ourselves. And so the more we do that, then it feels selfish. It's not, it's self-care. And when I can be self-caring, my codependency starts to heal and release. And then I can just interact with you. I'm not dependent on what you think or feel or say about me or to me or with me. I will react and feel energy of what you think, say, and do, and to me, with me, around me. But I'm not dependent on it because I have my own sense of self. And so it's really important, the delineation between an empath and a codependent, as we can be empathic, but we also need to be empathic with and have empathy for ourselves so we can release from codependency.